do the job. No, Don. Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. I can't.
You can.
I can't. Don't do this.
Do what? What am I doing?
This.
This what?
Welcome back to the Medium Cool Show. Today, we're taking a little trip to the Spanish countryside. Sexy Beast by Jonathan Glazer.
What's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst scenario? He's gonna come here. Ask me. I'm gonna say no.
And I had seen this movie recently, and I really wanted to show it to you because we're big British crime drama kind of guys.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really unique take on it. It's a very artistic take on it. Bottom line, I thought you would really enjoy the editing in it because I think it is like a very, very well edited film.
It is. It is a really well edited, tight knit, 80-minute film that doesn't overstay its welcome, which I fuck with. You know, I like films like that. Jonathan Glazer. I mean, you know, nowadays people know about him. You know, he's definitely a really interesting filmmaker. This is a different take from what you've seen. Like nowadays, he has a more methodical approach. But back then, this is like his first film he ever did, and it has like a more of a kind of a snappy commercial vibe, but also has like a very artistic vibe. Yeah, I mean, I never even heard of this movie before until you like mentioned it, but I definitely enjoyed it. It's a cool little film. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you guys have heard of this movie before.
I think I had heard about it just because, you know, looking at the British crime things, kind of like Guy Ritchie, I think it would be like, oh, like these are suggested for you kind of things. And so I think that's where I first heard about this. But then also in the book we read recently, I think they mentioned a little
Down
bit
and Dirty Pictures.
Down and Dirty Pictures, they mentioned Ben Kingsley a little bit in it, and Ben Kingsley's character in it. And I had always known, because he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this role, like kind of about this movie through his like nomination in that, but I didn't really know to what extent like how much his character carried this story. You know what I mean? Because I knew he wasn't the main character. I mean, so basically the story is we're following Ray Winstone.
Yeah, Ray Winstone.
He's this retired thief, and he's got this villa on the Spanish countryside and
in the south of Spain.
South of Spain, yeah. And
where a lot of retired guys go.
Okay. Yeah. Do they?
Yeah, like it really reminded me of my uncle because he retired from Sweden and then moved to Spain for tax reasons, you know? And he has like a really nice place in Soto Grande, south of Spain, you know? I think a lot of really retired guys go down there. But Ray Winstone, legendary guy. What I like so much about this movie, like I love his character in this, and like, you know, he's like just chilling, enjoying retired life, living the good life with his wife and their two friends. And Ray Winstone, I just love his, I just think he's a great actor. I love like his mobster style, his voice and everything, and his delivery. And
his voice is so good. It's so soothing.
Yeah. For the first part of the movie, I'm very invested in his character and his performance, but then enters the wild card, Ben Kingsley's character.
Yeah.
What's his name in this? Snow or something? What's his name?
Don.
Yeah. Yeah, and Don
Logan. Not Don Logan or something like that.
Yeah. Don Logan comes in, and his two friends warn him, hey, Don's coming to see you about something. And he's like, what?
He totally, like, you can totally tell the tone shifts.
Yeah.
Like, he's nervous. And you know through his acting that he's nervous. And they do this thing when Ben Kingsley enters the film where suddenly everything's like a close-up. Suddenly, like, you know, just the way that everyone's acting and the way everything's shot, you know that this guy, like, commands respect. And there's little tricks they do, you know, like, that just totally, like, draw your attention towards Ben Kingsley. And you just know that, like, this is not a guy to be fucked with, even though he hasn't done anything yet, you know?
Yeah. Well, I love, like, it's a build-up. It's a whole build-up where he comes into Spain and he's like, oh, we have this job that we need you here for. But at first, he just doesn't really say anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's like, oh, how you doing? No, I'm good. Yeah, you're good? Okay. He's like, so, like, are you gonna, we need you to come back. And he's like, what do you think about that? He's like, what do I think about what? Like, you coming and doing this job. He's like, you know, I'm kind of retired now. And he's like, are you kind of retired now?
Yeah. He starts asking him a bunch of questions. He's just asking him questions like, well, you know, Don, I'm not really up for it. You're not up for it.
Yeah.
How so? I would be useless. You'd be useless.
Yeah, he's like, there's no one else for this job. And he's like, yeah, I mean, but I wouldn't be any better. He's like, why wouldn't you be any better? Or like, you just see like asking him all these like questions, and then slowly throughout the time there, it just kind of escalates and escalates until like a sort of violent catharsis.
Yeah.
And eventually he does, like, it kind of does this cool time, space, and memory thing where we don't know what happened to Ben Kingsley, but Ray Winstone goes to London to meet with the mob boss who sent Ben Kingsley to hire him. And he does the job. He does like it gets like a really smooth operation too. It's not like any really, we kind of see that happen, and then we kind of get these like flashbacks that piece together what actually happened with Ben Kingsley character, because he never came back to London.
Yeah.
And the boss, who's played by Ian McShane, is wondering where he is and shit.
And Ian McShane's just as crazy. They do the same techniques that they do with like Ben Kingsley in this that they do with Ian McShane, where you know he commands respect and you don't know how. You don't know what he did. You don't know what he's capable of, you know? Yeah, for Ben Kingsley, there's a huge power trip there. I think it's just this war of attrition that we're subjected to and the characters are subjected to, where it's like, I've never seen anything like it. It's not like he's like smart or like tricking him or anything like that. He's just like beating him down, being like, you're going to do this job. You're going to do this job because I'm telling you you're going to do this job. And there's little hints throughout the movie too that I didn't catch the first time, but definitely caught this time, where Ray Winstone had done 9 years in prison for that. And so he gets out of prison, he retires on the Spanish countryside.
Yeah.
And now they're asking him to go back and do a job. Even though he put 9 years of his life in prison for them. So I think that's like the difference of like, when you get those little contexts and those little clues, it's not on the nose, you know? And I appreciate that about this movie. Also, the other thing I appreciate about this movie is how artistic it is with like some of the shots they do, the dreamlike sequences. I think it's really interesting, you know? I didn't expect that going into a British crime drama, but I was pleasantly surprised when I found that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think if you're a fan of like the kind of witty, quick, like crime drama, crime films, crime comedy, black comedy type Guy Ritchie, like you'll definitely get a kick out of this, because I think it's very tight knit, which I appreciate. It's very perfectly put together. Even the conversation with Ben Kingsley and Ray Winstone, where he's like, okay, so what's the score? And then he's like, who set up the score? And he's like, what do you mean who set up the score? You know who set up the score. And he's like, okay. And then they do like the dope ass conversational flashback, which might be like the best scene in the movie.
That might be the best scene, yeah. Just the way that's edited together, where it's like you see them in the past finding out the information and then giving the information themselves.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just the way it's like cut, where it's like they'll be like, who set up the score? And then Ben Kingsley will like also answer who set up the score.
Yeah,
you know? Like it's really like really trippy. There's so many layers there, and yeah, it's just a phenomenal scene.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of cool, like Jonathan Glazer coming out the gate with probably a lot of like passion, like really wound up from doing all these commercials, and he's coming in like really like nailing it, like making it like just like a fresh energy to it. It's not exactly a Guy Ritchie homage, but it's a kind of a fresh new take on that thing, even though I think it's kind of coming off of, you know, we're coming off of the 90s with a Tarantino witty like dialogue and Guy Ritchie like sort of witty crime action film. Yeah. And that kind of falls under that same umbrella, I would think.
Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of those 90s British directors kind of had the same flair to them, where it was like this, like, it's like this fast editing that they all learned, you know? This, like, quick wit that they all, like, incorporated in their films. And I think definitely...
music video commercial directors coming in.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Like, and you know, Guy Ritchie started in video commercials too, so it's like, Sexy Beast, we enjoyed it here. Let us know what you guys think of it. And if there's another, you know, fun crime movie that you want us to check out, let us know in the comments below.
I'm a fan. It's a good movie to watch, and it doesn't take up much of your time. It's fun to watch. Good characters, good dialogue, well written. Ben Kingsley is really the highlight of it. Even though Ray Winstone was at first the highlight of it, and it could have just been Ray Winstone the whole time, and I would have loved it. But then Ben Kingsley comes in and fucking takes the crown.
Yeah, you know? And that's how they set it up too.
Yeah, and the build up is great. You know, everything's like well understood, but like sometimes there's this thing where it's like answers first, questions later, time, space, and memory, which is really what cinema is about. you know? And yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you leave a like if you want us to make more videos like this, or leave a dislike if you don't want us to make more videos like this. And thank you for your continued support on this channel for the Medium Cool Show.